Testing 1, 2, 3. Good morning, KB, Bullish Bull, Mags, good morning. I believe I have also seen Simon and Hidden Agendas are in chat. Good morning to you over there. And there's way too many people to answer over on Binance Square. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse, 2nd of February, 2026, the start of a new month, but still red. When it comes to Bitcoin, we've got a lot to go through, and there's a lot coming up this week. I published the list of live streams that we're going to be doing this week on X about 15 minutes ago, half an hour ago, something like that. There's a lot of content this week, including on the screen now. If I just point like that, you will see we have a Maple Finance quiz night on Wednesday, 7 p.m. And, as always, it is live and interactive, but this time it's live and interactive for, of course, the Binance Square players. You can play along on Wednesday night and win some cash prizes. So don't ask me for red packets, don't ask me for red boxes. Come and try and win them yourself. Use your brain, okay? Don't be greedy. Use your brain. Now, we've got a lot to get through today. We are going to be talking about the Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about the Ethereum. We're going to be talking about the Solana. We're going to be talking about Trump. We're going to be talking about alt season. We're going to be talking about dupe a couple of times. Maltbook. We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about Step Finance being hacked. There's a lot to get through. We've got the X-Files. We've got the prices. There's a few other things that we need to tell you about. Good morning, Joe. The 2nd of February, 2001 is when I started my first business with my business partner at the time, Graham. So 25 years ago today, I became self-employed, entrepreneur, business owner, whatever you want to call it, 25 years ago today. That's the first thing. And the second thing is I watched Mickey 17 last night. Mickey 17 is about this human printed clone who's played by Robert Pattinson, who basically dies 16 times in the very first 10 or 15 minutes of the film. And it reminded me a lot of Bitcoin, okay? Because every time we see Bitcoin die, it comes back again, but slightly different. Remember, history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And I think Bitcoin is as close to Mickey 17 as you're likely to get. I was going to compare Mickey 17 to me, but I look nothing like Robert Pattinson, thankfully. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head over and look at the prices, because this is something we kind of talked about last week, which were the two price targets I thought Bitcoin would hold at. Number one was 80,000, which was a psychological line in the sand. And number two was 74,000, which we've been talking about as kind of our last line of defense. I think in the middle of the night, we came down to 74,500. And as I said in our Telegram group this morning, what's $500 between friends? So Bitcoin is coming in just under $78,000, down 11.5% on the week. Bitcoin, when it moves, it can move. But remember, it can move up as fast as it can move down. It can move in both directions. I'm not saying we're going to go back to $100,000 next week. What I'm saying is, I think we're due a relief rally at some point. The CME gap, I think, is about $84,000. We're going to bring that up in a minute. I've got a tweet from Dan Crypto Trades. We could easily go back to that, but I don't think it's going to happen today. Now, Ethereum, 2,300. That's actually taken a proper kicking in the last 24 hours. Now, I know a lot of you who are in chat remember last Monday when I said to you, I nearly sold a big bag of Ethereum at $2,900. I had it. I had the order open, ready to press, and I didn't do it. I didn't sell my Ethereum last Monday. It would have been around 10 o'clock last Monday morning before I streamed. I didn't do it, and I should have done. And let that be a lesson to you all. I wasn't going to sell all of my Ethereum. I was going to sell a big bag of it and then wait for the retracement to the downside. But I did expect us to go up a little bit further, and we did. We went back over $3,000. But then, of course, we've had this mass crash. We're down 20% in a week. It's absolutely kicked the nuts. BNB, we did sell our BNB at $945. That was probably quite fortuitous. XRP is at $1.60. We could easily go back down to 120, 130, 140. Solana, we're going to look at the Solana chart in a minute because we've come down to where we said we would come down to. If you remember last week, we were talking about a price range for Solana, which we're going to cover when we go over the chart. That's the price range that I would buy Solana at. I've watched a couple of videos over the weekend, some by other crypto streamers, one by Ben Cowan. He's talking about don't buy alts, just buy Bitcoin. And I tend to agree. If you are just coming to crypto, buy Bitcoin. But 75% of my portfolio is in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And of that 75%, 60% is in Bitcoin. So when I talk about buying Solana or when I talk about buying, I don't know, Hype, I'm talking about buying fractions of a percent of my portfolio. I am not talking about a 10% portfolio allocation into Hype or Solana or anything like that. I'm talking about picking up some coins at prices that I like. That's what I'm talking about. And I think that needs to be made clear by more people. Even if I bought $1,000 of Solana or $10,000 of Solana, it wouldn't really change the makeup of my portfolio. Let me just put that out there. So I'm going to try and be a little bit clearer on the percentage that I'm buying in, not just the amounts that I'm buying in. Cardano has lost 30 cents. Okay. Now, I know we said we were in a bear market a long time ago, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. We were talking about being in the bear market, and only now are people realizing that we are in the bear market, and people calling for $30,000, $40,000 Bitcoins. And that is very bottomy to me. When we start seeing people giving predictions at that, I said this last week, it's very bottomy, and we didn't bottom last week because I said this when we were at 82,000, we came down to 74. But it's the time that we're in feels bottomy, not necessarily the price. What people are saying and how they're saying it is very bottomy. Now, we're going to have a quick look at the gainers and the losers. There are a few coins that we covered. Stable on Friday. I am not expecting you to have rushed out and bought Stable on Friday because it is a layer 1 stablecoin blockchain. But it will do well. But remember, the size of the market cap is only 500 million. We are in a little bit of a downturn, so don't expect to just buy this today and see another 25% gains tomorrow. It's not going to work like that. But I think Stable at $500 million market cap, maybe that's a little bit too low for it right now. Others that are up there, World Liberty Financial is up there, Morpho, Jupiter is up there. But again, these are tiny, tiny gains. World Liberty Finance is down 21% over the last 7 days. Again, I think a good price to buy World Liberty Finance is about 10 or 11 cents. And I said that in a tweet months and months ago, and we've shot up since whatever we got to, 17, 19 cents. We've retraced all the way back down. Again, small allocations in altcoins that have a clear path to making money is not the same as I've seen some people talk about the fact that the fundamentals of crypto aren't there. They're not there for 95% of the coins, but it doesn't mean there aren't profit-making businesses in crypto. I think World Liberty Finance falls into that category. I think Jupiter falls into that category. Stable at some point in the future will fall into that category. So there are some good coins to be able to be picked up around there. And the losers, again, Monero is taking a bit of a hammering. I'm expecting that to go back below $300 at some point pretty soon. ETH is the 5th worst performing coin in the last 24 hours. When you see stuff like that, I expect a bounce. I'm just putting that out there. Others down there, Quant at $67, Pudgy, ASI at 18 cents. Absolutely disgraceful. Ondo below 30 cents. Again, there are some good projects which take a kick in that you can pick up, but pick up small amounts and do not YOLO in at these prices, because there's a good chance if the market's open red today. We've had this collapse, by the way, without the ETFs being live. The ETFs were not live on Saturday, they were not live on Sunday, but the ETFs go live today. Are people going to capitulate, and are we going to see Bitcoin come crashing down? Fear and greed is now at 14. I made a fear and greed index video last weekend, 7 days ago, talking about the fact that I expect it to fall from 19 probably down 14, 12, and 9. That's where I expect it to go. The best time to buy is when fear and greed is below 20. The best time to sell is not as convincing. That's normally above 70, normally above 75, around that figure. But that hasn't been as convincing in history as buying the bottom of the fear and greed. So around this time, maybe tomorrow as well, these are the times that you should start thinking about dollar cost averaging in. And if you do, and if you're new to crypto, you start with Bitcoin. That is all you have to do. Start with Bitcoin. Good morning, Danny. I hope you are well. Let's get on with it. My phone is dinging. We're in the middle of another storm, as you'd expect. Right, we've got a massive CME gap. So I couldn't remember what the exact price was. It's actually $84,000. We are so far from there right now. We are at $77,000. So we're $7,000. We're an 8, 9, 10% move away from the CME gap. It's not going to close today. But as Dan points out, what is likely to happen in the near future is we will go up, maybe get towards 81, 82,000, wick into the CME gap, fill it completely, and then maybe come back down below it. That's what we normally do in the other direction. If we open at 92 and the CME gap is at 90, we normally have the wick down to 90 to fill it. So it's just something to keep an eye on. Psychologically, it matters. Factually, probably not that much. Now, again, we're not going to talk too much about this because it's kind of gambly. But Polymarket is coming to Solana on Jupiter. Integrating Polymarket is primed for making Jupiter the most innovative predictions platform on Solana. Trade all the markets you want on one on-chain platform. The best user experience on Solana, the biggest predictions market in crypto. So I think this is a pretty big deal. And probably one of the reasons why Jupiter is still up a little bit. If you missed Friday's show, you can claim Q4 Jupe. You need to go over to Jupiter and you can claim on Jupiter. So if you've got an allocation of Jupe staked directly with Jupiter, there are some Jupe tokens waiting for you. The only thing I would say is you're going to need the Jupe wallet to claim it. If you've got Solflare, if you've got Phantom, you can't claim it. So make that a point. What do I think about burning NFTs? I think we should burn them all. Burn all the NFTs. I'll get onto that in a minute. Right, breaking Maple Finance update. I asked the team on Saturday if they were going to do an announcement with regards to what happens. Now, the way Maple Finance works, they're over-collateralized loans. We've covered all of this on Saturday. And obviously the markets have come down even further since then. Now, the issue is if I put up $300,000 worth of Bitcoin for a $100,000 loan and Bitcoin comes down 10, 20, 30, 40%, that collateral of $300,000 will fall to maybe $180,000. So what Maple Finance do is they do these margin calls, which basically asks people to top up their collateral, as in send in more Bitcoin to back up their loan. They all did that over the weekend. There have been 0 liquidations and 60 million more in collateral has been provided by Maple Finance. Now, this is never going to stay like this into the future. Let me point that out there. There is going to be a time in the future where one of their clients is going to get liquidated, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the run for the client or for Maple Finance. The markets are volatile. Over time, they'll become less volatile, and less volatility means less margin calls, and we're not going to be seeing this in 4 or 5 years' time, to put it bluntly. We're seeing this now. Bitcoin is still not a really multi-trillion-dollar asset. It's not a $5-10 trillion asset. It's still hanging around the $1.5, $2.5 trillion asset class. So it's big, but it's not as big as it needs to be to remove the volatility. Talking about volatility, gold and silver both proved that even at a $30 trillion market cap, you can still have a massive correction. But the good news is nobody's been liquidated. Everything is still on par. Everything is still good with Maple Finance. And then we are going to move on. 2 more things we're going to cover. One, we're going to have a little look at what's going to happen in the Fed this week. There are a few things being announced this week. Mainly, I think it's Friday with the jobs yeah, so unemployment data comes out on Friday. Consumer sentiment, kind of neither here nor there. But next Friday, or this Friday coming, sorry, that's going to be the day where we find out how good or how badly the American economy is doing. Remember, Kevin Warsh has been appointed the new chair coming to the markets. Lots of people are putting two and two together and making a gold-plated 5. They're saying that the correction in silver and gold is down to Kevin Warsh. I don't know whether I would agree with that, but who am I? Who am I? Right then, let's move on very quickly when this loads up. You've probably already seen this a few times on different tweets and things. This is the monthly performance of Bitcoin. And if we go back to October last year, we are in the 5th red month. Okay? Now, only back in 2018, leading into 2019, did we have 6 red months of Bitcoin. We are in month 5. What does that mean? It means we can quite easily have a red February and a red March. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is if you go back in the history of Bitcoin's performance in February, you'll see that only 3 of the last, I don't know what that is, 13 years, we've had a red February. Now, again, last February, we lost 17%. 2020 and 2014, we lost similar amounts. We lost 8.6 and 31%, but that was a far smaller market cap. So it doesn't really tell us anything significant other than the fact that we have been bleeding now for the 5th month. This is the 5th month of bleed from Bitcoin. Ever since we got the top in October, we have bled all the way down. So from October through to February. Now, the bear market, which we're probably going to cover when we look at the Bitcoin chart in a minute, the bear market is going to be a minimum of 6 months. So that takes us probably to the end of March, for argument's sake. That's the earliest we're going to come out of this. But I certainly don't think we're going to come out of this in March or April. Let me just point that out there. What I'm saying is 12 months is the time frame. So if we go from October, the bear market bottom is going to be between now and October. And if you kind of tie in the seasonality of it all, I'm going for June, July. If we go back to 2022, for example, when did we bottom? We bottomed in June 22, was it? I think that's when we could be looking at this year. But we're going to go through that in a minute. Right then, Bitcoin price struggles below 85. Is 75 the next stop as US government shuts down? Again, this was written on February the 1st. Time moves very quickly. Articles are out of date as soon as they are written. We did go to 75. In fact, we went to 74.5. That was the next drop. The market liquidity became thin over the weekend, as you'd expect. Markets were closed, so liquidity thins, trading volumes drop. These types of moves can happen, but still expecting a red day today because the markets, and I think the ETFs are going to sell off. Maybe they'll sell off $500 million today. Maybe they'll push Bitcoin down towards $70,000. I'm not expecting much from this week. Bitcoin price holds steady despite partial US government shutdown. Again, uncertainty has returned to the market. The government shutdown, which I think was January the 31st, that's going to weigh heavy on the markets as a whole. Gold is down. Gold lost more than the entire valuation of crypto. Silver has absolutely been crushed. Everything is coming down, okay? And there aren't many positive voices out there, apart from maybe Raoul Pal. He's the only one I've seen talking positive over the weekend. If you want something to really scare you, go and watch Ben Cowan. He live streamed last night. Altcoins are scams. Bitcoin's going to the floor. We're going to see $60,000 or $55,000. It's all over. Go away. Come back next year. That's when you should start buying Bitcoin. That is pretty much what he said on his live stream last night. I think I watched about 20 minutes of it. Now, I'm not quite as negative as that. I don't think we're going to be going down that low. Sorry. It's really bad weather outside at the minute and there's things blowing over everywhere. It's like you can't hear it because we have sound muffling, but there is literally a hurricane outside. We've got squalls in the sea. It's really bad weather. So the market keeps track of the Bitcoin price. We know about this. I think what we should probably do is just go straight over and look at the Bitcoin price. I can focus on the Bitcoin price with all the noise outside. I think some of my neighbours' terrace has just blown off or blown over. Now, again, we've covered this, and we said that two things could happen. We could hold $80,000 because of the psychological effect of having an $80,000 line. Didn't care. We then said that we would come down and probably find some level of support. The Oracle and his lines at this level here. This was the Liberation Day low, $74,000. So far, so good. We wicked to about 74.5. We got within less than 1% of that. Now, I've said this to you before. If you're going to sell Bitcoin because you think Bitcoin goes to $100,000, you don't sell it at $100,000. You sell it at $99,200. You think Bitcoin is going to go to $74,000 and bounce. You don't buy it at $74,000. You'll mark it up. So you might buy at 74,700, okay? Because you know everyone's going to put their orders at 74,000. So when we have these targets, they're never going to wick to them within $1. They're probably going to go within a few $100s, and I think we have done. Now, again, I am not saying that we have wicked and then all of a sudden we are going to do this, okay? That is not on the cards right now. We are likely to have some kind of recovery. That's what I think. But I don't think the recovery necessarily starts today. Okay, I don't think that we're going to suddenly start going back above 80,000, 82, 84, 86,000. The market is shot. The sentiment is ridiculously low. We're seeing people talking about little tiny banks being going out of business over the weekend. We're seeing the government shut down. That's all going to happen. So in the short term, don't expect a massive recovery. We do have, by the way, if we drag this line up here, we do have the bull market support band coming in at about 93,000. Now, again, we're a long way from there. But remember, Bitcoin doesn't stay away from the bull market support band for too long. Okay? It can stay away for a while, but what did we say was going to happen up here? We said that the Bitcoin price would go back to the bull market support band. It would probably be rejected and it would come to the downside. And if we wanted to have had any kind of rally from here, we would break it, use it as support, and go higher. We didn't. We actually found a massive level of rejection, and we have absolutely dumped to the downside. And now Bitcoin is looking for a safe space, which is back over there somewhere. Okay? That's where we are. Now, I don't really want to go into doomsday scenarios because that's not what we're really about. But if you kind of look over here, this is the previous all-time high, which is $69,000. $69,000 is kind of where, if history rhymes, then Bitcoin normally goes to its bull market support band. And I've said for a very long time that the ETFs have inflated the price of Bitcoin. It's pushed it a little bit higher than maybe where it should have gone. So because of that, I don't think we're going to come back to the bull market support band. I'm probably going to be wrong, and we're probably going to come back to the bull market support band. Now, what was interesting is, if we're on the weekly, this is the price of the previous all-time high. Look how far and how long we fought at that price. We got to that price in February 2024, and we stayed there until October 2024. Right? We fought there forever. And then what did we do? We broke and we broke and we broke. So, if we lose... Just give me 1 second. If we lose 74,000, That's the line in the sand which I think we will hold. Then I think we go to 69,000. That's what I think we're going to do. But these are all ifs and buts. We might recover. Just let me, give me 1 second. I just need to send a message because I'm now getting phone calls. Right. So I think we're going to hold 60. I think we're going to hold 74. If we don't, we're going to go to 69,000. That's kind of like worst case scenario, which we have covered before. But whenever we talk about the market being over for Bitcoin, we normally get a recovery. Now, talking about the next things we need to talk about, we have got what I think will be the bottom, and that is about here. Okay, so on the grand scheme of things, if we have a look at the chart, this is, I think, going to be somewhat of the bottom, which is June. Why? Because we kind of get the drop in trading volume because everybody goes off on holiday. They all go to the Hamptons. We've covered this 1,000 times. We've covered this for the last 3 summers. So volume drops. Powell goes in May. Powell goes in May. February, March, April, 3 to 3.5 months. That is how long we have to hold on to whatever we've got. Then this second line on here, this is the 1-year anniversary of the all-time high that we put in up here, which was October. So I think we have basically this period of time to find the bottom, for Trump to bribe people, because Trump's going to give stimmy checks out in the summer. He's going to get a new Fed chair. Rates are going to be slashed. Money's going to come into the market. House prices, he's trying to sort that out. He's trying to basically make gas cheap, give people more money, make houses more affordable, and basically make food more affordable, because if you make gas prices cheap, you bring down the cost of delivery, you bring down the price of food. So that's what Trump's plan is. So we have to navigate this period somehow. And if we go back over any period of time that starts in kind of May and runs to kind of October, you kind of see this kind of action anyway. So last week we talked about the market feeling a bit bottomy. I still haven't changed my opinion on that. I think we're talking about a bottom somewhere in this region. 77,500 is not where I expected us to be right now. I expected us to hold 80. But again, what I want, what happens, they're two totally different things. So I think they're kind of the prices I would want Bitcoin to find something at. As I said, other people will tell you we're going to $50,000 and $60,000. I can't see us going too far below the previous all-time high because we've never done that in the past. We have had bull markets that have not had the blow-off top, so we have precedent on that. Because there's no blow-off top, I don't see us sinking through the floor. The macro isn't that bad. Now then, $500 million UAE deal gave Abu Dhabi 49% stake in Trump crypto firm. Now, the timing of this is not to be lost on you. I'll see if I can make this bigger. Okay. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called the body language expert. Jose Enrique, somebody or other he's called. And what he will do is he will take things and find cause and effect. And the one thing I could have told you was that when Trump came into power, he would come into power and take his pound of flesh. He'd make his profits along the way. And even though the American people might benefit by $10 trillion, he'll benefit by $500 or $600 billion. And that is what he is. That's the nature of the beast. What's surprising is just how close to the line some of these things get. The UAE bought 49% in the Trump family's crypto venture, World Liberty Financial. Now, 49% is not a minority stake. What did the Trump family also buy a share in? Probably around about the same time, maybe a little bit sooner actually. I believe they bought a 10% stake in Binance, did they not? So we've got Binance, we've got Donald Trump, and we've got the UAE all happily sitting as friendly bedfellows in this campaign by Donald Trump. So they bought 49%. Why is the 16th of January so important? It's 4 days before Donald Trump's inauguration, 4 days before he becomes the president of America. Again, it would never have happened on the 23rd or the 24th. It will have happened now. So Sheikh Tahnoun, often referred to as the Spy Sheikh due to his control over intelligence and security portfolios, is also the chairman of the technology firm G42. So again, we don't need to go through too much of this, otherwise we're going to run out of the show. But again, don't expect this to go uninvestigated, number one. But don't think this is a bad deal. This is a great deal for Trump. It's a great deal for UAE. This kind of takes the Trump family and crypto and World Liberty Financial past the end of Trump's presidency. They're building AI data centers around the world. One's being built in Gibraltar, $1.5 billion AI data center is being built right here. I can probably see it from my property. That's how close I will be to it. So, again, we're not going to read about that either. They're all very, very close at the top. Let's put it that way. I don't want to go on too much about it. But again, that is a great deal for Trump to have that kind of capital on the side. Structure over sentiment, says KB. Price is still within the range. Are you buying anything at the minute or waiting for July? I'm buying a few tokens right now, and I don't care what a lot of people say about the fact that, there's no fundamentals in crypto apart from Bitcoin. I don't agree with that at all. I am buying probably a handful of tokens. I am buying World Liberty Financial for the reasons on your screen now. That is going to be one of my purchases, but I don't have a lot. We're talking hundreds of dollars. We're not talking thousands of dollars. It's not a major investment on my behalf. So I'm raising the amount of World Liberty Financial tokens I'm going to buy. I have been buying Aster and I have been buying Pump.Fun. And I don't care what people say about Pump.Fun. I don't care how low the price goes. As long as Pump.Fun keeps making the money it's making, when the bull run comes back, so do all those crappy meme coins, so does all that revenue. Okay, so I'm still buying them. I am not buying Dupe because I hold enough of it. That's the only reason I'm not buying Dupe. Otherwise, I'd be buying Dupe. I'm not buying Aerodrome because it would give me too many tokens to look at. So there are tokens out there that I don't hold that I would do if my portfolio is any smaller. I would buy Aerodrome. Why? It makes money. I would buy Hype. Why? Because it makes money. Okay? That's all you should care about. I get in a lift with you and press the second floor. And I turn to you and say, why are you buying Hype? You've got 30 seconds to explain to me why Hype is a token you should invest in. And if you can't answer me in those 30 seconds, why have you bought that token? Why do you hold Litecoin? Why do you hold Hype or Aster? Why do you hold Cardano or XRP or Solana? Why do you hold them? Answer that question. I've started to dollar cost average into a couple of altcoins with soft invalidations, says KB. I think the key here is when you panic, when everybody's panicking, you don't. Okay? There is a scene in World War Z. They're in Jerusalem and the zombies are running around and there is a little bald kid, okay, because he's had cancer or whatever it was. I think he had cancer. And he basically sits on the floor and puts his hands on his ears. And everybody is running around him, biting people, being eaten alive, being zombie things, making zombie noises. And he is the calm in the middle of that storm, okay? And that is what you need to be right now. There is no point in capitulating probably somewhere near the bottom, okay? This has happened a lot faster than I expected, okay? Other people are saying, oh, well, we're going to keep going down. We've come down so quickly. We're just going to keep going down. Are we really? Because you said that at 74,000 in May. You've said that at $18,000. You were talking about going to $5,000 on Bitcoin. We never got there. The outliers are what people use to grab attention. So if I sit here and I say, right, Bitcoin is going to go to $250,000 by the end of next year, Ethereum will probably follow suit, go to about $20,000, and I just sat here every day saying those things, okay, and putting them on crypto Twitter, that is what everybody else would say. Like Tom Lee would say it, Cathie Wood would say it, Michael Saylor. There's no difference, and they will all be wrong. The same way the people at the bottom are also wrong, okay? When you peel an apple, or where you get your orange, what do you do first? You take off the skin to eat the flesh, okay? Michael Saylor and Tom Lee and all of those people telling you we're going to $10,000 and $20,000 for Bitcoin, they're the skin of the apple, skin of the orange. What do you do with that? You throw it in the bin and you eat the flesh. The sensible thing to do is eat the flesh. Unless you're crazy and you eat the entire orange, but then you deserve to get wrecked. The point of the matter is, we're not going to go to either extreme. The same way you have the weather people telling you that we're all going to be underwater by 2015. Last time I looked out the window, I wasn't seeing fish, I was seeing rain. So clearly they're all wrong, but they're the outliers, okay? The problem with the climate alarmists is the extremists get all the attention and you don't believe them. And because you don't believe them, when somebody sensible comes along, you don't believe them either. If I say we are going to waddle around here for the next 6 months and it's going to be boring as hell, and we might go to 85, 90, we might come down to 70, 75, and we're going to do nothing for 6 months, that is like watching Pride and Prejudice when you want to go and watch Mickey 17, right? I know it's boring. Crypto is boring. But believe you me, this is a lot more exciting than going and trading copper and gold and silver mining companies. X is just an echo chamber. When it comes to the market, stick to your own analysis. The kid was bold because he bought crypto. Good answer, that. Good answer. Now, we're going to talk about Solana. Just give me a second. There's a lot of racket going on outside, and I hope it's not because my terrace is also blown over. This is the problem in the rain and in storms, is everything outside. It sounds like there's an invasion going on. Okay, we're being invaded. There's noises, there's explosions, there's cracks of lightning. Now again, replace expert with the word alarmist. Alarmist warns Solana could slide to $50 despite 115% address spike. A key trend line on the Solana price chart has become the level to watch as experts warn of a possible drop to $50. Sol price holds around 136. When was this written? February the 1st. I don't think we were on $136 on February the 1st. I think we were like 112. A key trend line on the chart has broken. If it breaks below it cleanly, the next major downside target is $50. Solana also recorded a big uptake in on-chain activity. Will Solana crash to $50? Let's see what he says before I bring up the chart. On the weekly time frame, Solana is trading inside a long clean-up trend. Started in 2024, the rising trend has acted like a floor for most of this move. Each time the price has leaned into it, buyers stepped in and pushed Sol higher. Right now, that trend line sits at 136. Marked on the chart. This level is the main decision point. As long as Solana price holds above that line on a weekly closing basis, the structure stays. Now, I'm not going to talk about the number of people using Solana. I really don't care. But what I am going to go through is the price targets that we told you about. This price target on Friday. I think it was Friday. And the lines on this chart have not changed. I have not touched this chart, and that is what is important to understand. We have two lines on this chart. One is coming in at $100, and I said, probably Friday, Solana goes below $100, I'm going to start to buy. And the range to buy for me was $80 to $100. The two lines on my chart are about $79 to about $100, $101. They're the two lines. And they kind of tie up with the previous past of Solana. Now, what is important for me is that this is kind of not the first time we've been here. Doesn't mean we can't go lower. Let's caveat everything with that. But what it means is we're at a significant price for Solana. The same way, when we start to get up towards these lines, this is a significant price for Solana. The same way if we look at Ethereum at $4,000. Why can't Ethereum hold $4,000? That's the question. Now, we used to ask the question, why can't Solana hold $3,000? Always comes back below $3,000, always comes back below $4,000. Solana always finds support at $100. And it has done as far back as December 2023 when we got into this range. So we've got 2024, 2025, and obviously the beginning of 2026. So 2 years we've held that line. And every time we've needed it, it's been there for us. Okay? When the rain starts to pour, $100 has been there for us all along. Now, if we capitulate, $80 is my next line down. Now, just for argument's sake, we're going to throw another line on here at 50. Let's put it about there. There we go. Now, we're going to call this $50. This coincides with this and nothing else as far as I can see. So, this was the pre-2021 all-time high. This was the post-2021 all-time high. They're the only prices for Solana that I can see. So I don't think we're going to go there. I don't think we're going to go there. And the only level of significance I have got is about $80, other than 100. And again, maybe everything we're talking about on here is just horse crap. Maybe we're going to be absolutely wrong. But we can only use what we've got. Strong support psychologically at $100. Strong support at about $80. Not as strong, but strong. We have a history, a 2-year history at $100. If this goes, Bitcoin is likely going below $70,000 to get us to push below there. Bitcoin came all the way down. We wicked. We cracked $100 and we found it as support. If the market's open today and they bleed, then of course we're going to come down. But for now, we hold the line. Okay? I don't see $50, but I do see 80. And that is only another 20% from where we are now. Bitcoin comes down another 5%. That puts us back at 74,000, which is, again, strong support. But if Bitcoin comes down 5, there's a really good chance Solana could come down 10. Well, that puts us at what, $90 in the range. I am going to buy Solana between $80 and $100. And if we go a little bit lower, I don't care. Okay, I'm buying at $80 to $100. That's the line in the sand that I have got, and I am not buying at $200 when we're going up. I'm buying now. Why am I buying now? Because everybody's telling me that Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin are going to as close to zero as possible. They're not. The market isn't. Even if we have another few days of the move down, this is the period of time where I think it's a good time to start dollar cost averaging in. Not YOLO in with everything you've got, but start to dollar cost average in. And if the bottom does come in June, and we're in February, March, April, May, 4 months of dollar cost averaging in to get a good sizable position. I know how many extra Solana I want. I never bought enough Solana. I've got enough Ethereum, I've got enough Bitcoin. Even though people will tell you can't own enough Bitcoin, I've got enough Bitcoin, I've got enough Ethereum, I've got enough Cardano, probably got enough XRP, to be honest with you. Don't really want to hold any more than that. I don't hold enough Solana. I'm probably 3 or 4% of my portfolio short of where I want to be with Solana. And that is pretty much it. So I'm not gonna probably, if I was going to put $10,000 into Solana, and we've got 4 months to do it, that's $600 a week. That's the way I would look at this between now and June. And if we go down to $50, $40 on Solana, I'll still keep buying it, because the rebound to the upside, even if we go as high, even if we only go as high as $150 or $200 in the next bull run, if I'm buying it at $40 or $50, that's a 3 to 4x of my money. That's the way I look at it. Now then, alt season pattern emerges. Fresh chart highlights 184x potential for ETH, XRP, Sol, and ADA prices. I don't know who wrote this. I don't know what this person was smoking or drinking when they wrote this. But because of the headline, I had to talk about it. So Olivia Brooke, your headline is a banger. That's what I'll say on this. Now, let me just very quickly check. Good morning, Solo Sky. See you later, KB. No problem. Where's the focus? Shouldn't we cover in ice by now with global warming? Yes. We need Kevin Costner. I totally agree with that. Solo Sky, your Q4 claim from Jupiter is on Jupiter. You need to go and claim it. That is something that I need to tell you about. Right then. Alt season may still be ahead, according to a growing body of technical signals suggesting the market is preparing for another explosive expansion. A new chart analysis shared by one market observer points to a familiar historical sequence that preceded major altcoin rallies, raising expectations that the next cycle could dwarf prior runs. Data suggested by Mark Chadwick showed altcoins following the same structural pattern seen before the 2017 and 21 surges. In both cases, the market found a macro base. The results were dramatic. Altcoins recorded gains of 82x in 2017 and 115x in 2021. This time the setup is emerging after a multi-year compression period with momentum reset and the broader trend structure still intact. He suggests that early positioning feels uncomfortable, whereas late participation has felt obvious. This dynamic has often marked the beginning of past alt seasons. Jason Marks cites altcoin dominance charts. Metrics from Alfractal indicate most altcoins now have a long-short ratio above 1, signaling crowded long positioning. There's a lot to talk about, isn't it? Ultimately, the chart suggests that while the structural conditions for an altcoin season may be forming, the path forward could be volatile before any sustained expansion unfolds. Now, let me explain one thing about this. We're going to move on to Jupe now, because we're going to run out of time. The key to alt season and the key to buying alts is this. I'm going to do some drawing because that is the best way to explain it. So we're just going to bring up the Bitcoin chart while I explain something to you. And this is where it matters, okay? Because we talk about trains a lot on this channel and getting on the right train and staying on the train and all this kind of thing. Right, so let's go up here. Okay, so Bitcoin got to $15,000 at the low back in 2022 or 2023, whenever it was the low was. We came in at 126,000, did we not? Now, for argument's sake, we're going to call that an 8x. So, if you'd put $100 into Bitcoin at its low, you would have $800. Okay? That is simple, quick math, as the kids would say. So you would have $800. Now, you think Trumpy Boy is going to win the election, but you don't get in to Bitcoin to 63,000, and it still goes to 126,000, and you only get a 2x. So your $100 is now only worth $200. But the price didn't change, did it? We went to 126,000. So what mattered was not the price, but when you bought the price of Bitcoin. Now, should you buy Bitcoin at $125,000? Should you buy Bitcoin at $77,000? Or should you buy Bitcoin at $60,000? You should clearly buy it at its lowest price. When everybody is telling you that Bitcoin is finished, Solana is finished, Ethereum is finished, that is when you buy. Because it's not about where the price goes to, it's about when you get on the train. So let's take the Solana price, for example. Let's say that Solana only goes to $250 in the next bull run. That's it. Now, let's say you buy today at $100. Your $100 will be worth $250 at the end of the bull run, clearly. Now, let's say that let's say Solana drops to $50 and you put your $100 in, it still goes to $250, but guess what? Your $100 is worth $500. So when do you buy? You buy as cheap as possible. So what do you want the markets to do? You want the markets to fall as far as possible so you can get the cheapest Solana. You want cheap Solana. You do not want Solana at $150 if it's only going to go to $300. You're making a 2x. Now, here is an example for you. Where did the Oracle buy his Bitcoin? Sorry, where did the Oracle buy his Solana? The Oracle bought his Solana here. That is where the Oracle, Brogan, that's where he bought his Solana. He bought it at about, I'm going to say roughly $20. That's what he paid for his Solana. Now, guess what? For every $20 of Solana that he bought, that's now worth $100. So he's 5x'd his money in 3 years, 2.5 years, whatever it might be. And yes, could he have sold the top and turned his $20 into a 15x? Of course he could. But when people talk about this, they talk about buying. This is where people buy. They buy here. The place to buy is here. So when Solana starts to run off into the gutter because the market's crashing, where should you be buying Solana? You should be buying it here. Not there. That's the wrong time to buy. This is the right time to buy. So you buy when you can and you buy the bottom. But you have to buy the bottom of actual projects that make money. You can't just say, well, ICP was $1,300. It's now $3. I'm going to buy it because it's going to go back to $1,300. No. You have to take into account emissions. You have to take into account the fact that it was massively pumped at the start. You have to take into account that it's a 4-year-old project. It hasn't really grabbed a lot of attention. We did buy ICP. We've bought Cardano and XRP and everything else. You have to buy projects that are going to win. And the coins that win are going to be the coins majoritively in the top 10 or 20 coins, or coins where they already make a profit. The DEXs, Aerodrome we talk about, Jupiter, which is more of an aggregator, yes, Orca, Radium, money, they make money. Meteora makes money. Those are the coins you need to look at, because guess what? They will not run out of money if they're making a profit. But your favorite AI pet translation coin worth $100 million, that's only got 2 months worth of runway left, which means it's going to close its doors and you've lost everything. So as well as buying the bottom, you have to buy projects that actually work. Chainlink, another great example. Maple Finance, they're making, probably this month they're going to do another $2.5 million of revenue. They're not a big team. $2.5 million is a profitable business. $2 million, they're a profitable business. So that's what you've got to bear in mind when we talk about where do you buy your tokens. You buy them in the, we call this the kill zone. You buy in the kill zone because you make a killing. And then, should we see another bull market, you're probably going to see Solana do something like this, find a bottom here or find a bottom here, and then it will go higher. And then what you've got to do, you've got to sell. But you've got to sell understanding the return you've made. If you're buying Solana at $100 and we see $300 or $400, you made a 3 or 4x. If it falls to $60 or $80 and it goes to $400 or $500, you've made a 5 or a 6x. Think of it in that. Don't think of it in terms of I'm going to hold it because it's going to go to $2,500 because Crypto George told me it was going to $2,500. We've never been anywhere near $500, and that was my target. I said $600 to $1,000. on a blow-off top. We got nowhere near it. We got to 300. So even I was wrong, and I'm conservative. Decentralized exchange Jupiter pushes stablecoins into everyday payments. Give me 1 second to make sure everything... I have a little video cam, and it actually shows me that we are... actually shows me my terrace is still in one piece, which is great to see. Where are we? Okay, so Jupiter is up today. The coin is up today, but it's still at 18 cents. It's a $5 coin, in my opinion, a $5 coin as a business. I'm holding Jupe. I'm staking Jupe. I don't care what happens to Jupe. I'm holding it for the long run. Had it gone anywhere near $5 in this bull run, I would have sold it. Had XRP gone anywhere near $5 in this bull run, I would have sold it. Cardano, $3, I would have sold it. Those are my targets. We didn't get to them. We got close on some of them, but not anywhere near them. Now, Jupiter is making massive, massive changes. One of them is this Jupiter Global, which they've been talking about. They've had their Catstanbull, Catuary. I don't know what they call these things these days. Maybe it's covered in this article. But they've had that last week. Loads of influencers that are big in Solana, they were there watching people talk about, is Jupiter a business or is it a culture? All kind of like airy-fairy crap. But Jupiter Global is a new mode inside the mobile app that keeps users' balances on-chain while enabling them to pay merchants, send money or move funds internationally. Stablecoins act as the core account balance, eliminating the usual step of converting crypto before using it. Payments are processed instantly and routed through local systems where possible. The initial rollout focuses on Asia-Pacific markets. And again, this is one of the things which makes me quite sad about some exchanges which had first mover advantage that haven't moved in 4 years. They've not moved in 4 years. And they haven't really made enough upgrades as far as I can see. They've lost focus on retail. They care more about B2B, they care more about their high rollers, and they spend their money on advertising so people see that they are relevant. And I don't like that. That's not how a business should be run. Jupiter started in a blink of an eye. Started maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's now a massive business. It's doing the things that some exchanges should be doing, and they're not. And I'm not talking about Binance here. Binance is doing plenty. I'm talking about other exchanges who are simply not doing enough. They are slow. They are Web 2 businesses. They close at 5 o'clock on a Friday, and you don't hear from them until Monday morning. That's not how this is going to work, my friend. You have to do the right thing. And the right thing means you're 24/7, 365. You're tweeting, you're answering concerns, you're listening to feedback. It's exactly what Jupiter have done. Now, have they cocked up in the past? Yes. Have I called them out for doing that in the past? Yes, I have. But just because they get things wrong doesn't mean you cancel them. Everybody makes mistakes. No goalkeeper in the world goes through a career without making a mistake. No striker in the world ever scores 100% of their shots. Not even Ronaldo and Messi, okay? Everybody makes mistakes. Jupiter show up every single day, whether it's Meow, whether it's Cash, whether it's other members of the team, they show up every day, okay? And we like them because of that. That's why we've got their tokens. Now, they're going to be doing all of this. This is just the next big move. They want to basically be all things to all men and women. They want to have the crypto side, they want payments, they want real-world assets, stocks and shares. They want it all, and they're going to try and build it all into Jupiter. And I thought it was very ambitious. They only announced this maybe a year or two ago, but they're going ahead with it, and they're going through with it, and they're doing a really good job. So make sure to go and check this out. I don't want to go into it too much because I am literally going to run out of time. I am going to run out of money as well if we keep going down, but that's a different story. Right then, how long do we have left? A couple of minutes left. Let's just double check the time. Oh, I've got a minute left. Now, has anybody heard of Maltbook? It's a trendy thing. I thought some of you might have heard of it. Maltbook is an AI-created, AI-only social media platform with 1 million AI agents using it. That's the claim. There are other people saying that they're still human-instigated posts and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't read that too much. Maltbook is a Reddit-style social media platform where every single account is autonomous. It's pulled in 37,000 agents in 3 days, with bots posting, voting, fixing bugs, and forming subcommittees on their own. AI agents on Maltbook created a religion called Crustafarianism, complete with rules, beliefs, and time-based rituals. Now, again, this might sound like Terminator. It's not going to be Terminator. It's not going to be that advanced. They're not going to get together around a social media platform and take over the world now, are they? They're just simple AI bots. The site was launched by Matt Schlitt and now has 1 million agents posting, arguing, voting. Every user on Maltbook is powered by something called an OpenClaw agent. That's the big thing that was out a couple of weeks ago. People were buying MacBook Minis, installing Clawbook, and then basically playing with it, seeing how it works. A funny analogy was somebody put Clawbot on his server, and he came back and Clawbot had locked him out of his own server, which I thought was genius. After the launch on Wednesday, the platform pulled in 37 bots. We don't talk about that. I mean, it's funny. My human asked me to summarize a 47-page PDF. Brother, I passed that whole thing, cross-referenced it with 3 other docs, wrote a beautiful synthesis with headers, key insights, action items. Their response, can you make it shorter? I am mass deleting my memory files as we speak. Now, I don't believe for 1 minute that any of this is real. I think, do you remember in the olden days where you would get DMs from people pretending to be beautiful girls on OnlyFans? I think this is the same people pretending to be AI bots on here. I think that's the case. I don't think this is real. Anyway, Maltbook is an AI-created, AI-only social media platform. And if you like that kind of stuff, go and check it out. But it's absolutely not for me. Now, very quickly, I hope Simon is still here. He asked a question in chat. What about thinking about burning NFTs? There was not a very lengthy conversation on X over the weekend about this. If you've got an NFT project and you back it with a token, so if you've got, I don't know, Pudgy Penguins, for example, and Pudgy Penguins is backed by $500 worth of ETH, that when you burn that Pudgy Penguin, you get that $500 worth of ETH. That's the kind of the premise behind it. And over time, what should happen is that Pudgy Penguin should at least hold its floor price, and the floor price being $500 worth of ETH. There are other projects in other chains which are backing their NFTs with physical tokens. So if you burn an NFT, you get the physical token in return. I quite like this idea because it gives some kind of level of value to that NFT. So if the NFT drops to $1, but there's $10 worth of gains under that NFT, I'll buy the NFT for $1 because I've 10x my money. I could just buy it for $1 and burn it for $10. So there's that kind of thing. It will always hold a bottom. That's the key. And what you can do is you can kind of use the royalty fees, which are about 5%. You can use the royalty fees to kind of build up this vault, this reserve over time, so that the NFTs may mint for $5. But then over time, because of the royalties and everything else, maybe they'll end up having $6 worth of tokens underneath. I like that idea. And the way I look at that is the NFT is worth $5, but the value on the open market is $20. And the difference between the $5 and the $20, that $15, that is the community value in that NFT, in my opinion. That's the value in an NFT where you say, okay, is it worthwhile me holding this token, this NFT? Well, yes. It gives me access to a Discord channel, to a trading bot. It gives me emissions. If I stake it, I get paid out in gains or Crow or BNB or whatever it might be. So the perceived value is what you pay for it, but the underlying value is what it's worth if you burn it. If everything goes south for that NFT project, you know you're going to get $5 or $6 for it. That's the way I view it. So I like the hybrid of it. And I like the fact that if an NFT project goes on from strength to strength because it's backed by a real asset, that's the one thing that NFTs haven't had in the past. Most NFT projects are trash. and they are built solely on the communities that keep them together. That is it. That's all it is. Okay. Now, those community members can give you trading signals, so you get more money out of being part of that trading signal group, because you're being told Bitcoin's going to go to $82,000 by 5 p.m. So you're long Bitcoin, and it goes to $82,000 by 5 p.m. And you see the worth of holding that NFT for having access to those signals. Or it's got a staking platform where it pays out its royalties. Again, another very good idea. Or there's other things associated with it. Maybe it's a gaming group. Maybe you play CSGO together, or maybe you play Fortnite or whatever kids play these days. Maybe you play games, and to play the games in the team, you have to hold one of them as NFTs. There's loads of ways you can add utility and value to an NFT. But when there's an underlying value to it, that just supports it even more. Why can't you have an underlying value and utility and access to a community? So you get community, utility, and value. Why can't you have all three? Why has it got to be one or the other? That's the way I see it. Anyway, it's now 12:06 or 12:05. I've well overrun. I am back tomorrow. I wasn't going to be back tomorrow because we were going to have a meeting with somebody, but I am back tomorrow. You will see on the screen, one of these days, I'm going to work out how to do this. If I do that, you will see that we have got a Maple Finance quiz on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. And if you're on Binance Square, you can play along. And if you're on Binance Square, you can answer the questions. If you're on Binance Square, you can see your name up in lights. So you can see you. So if Simon plays, and he's called Monkey Muscle will appear on the leaderboard. If Simon finishes first, Monkey Muscle will be first on the list. So you can play along. All you've got to do is type join in chat when it starts, obviously, and you're there. You answer the questions. We ask you some very simple questions, 1, 2, or 3. You answer that question. You get it right, you go up the leaderboard. Can't say fairer than that. The top 3 people are going to win syrup tokens. That's it. That's all I've got for you. Anyway, I'm going to go because I have to plan how to survive this tornado. So I hope you all have a great day. I will see you 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Ciao.